The more of these things that he does, the more attracted he is to you. The less of these things that he does, the less attracted he is to you. And at the end of this video, I'm going to reveal to you a test that you can actually use if you're just like, hey, Matt, I'm not that sure how much he likes me. Does he really, really like me a lot or not? I'm going to give you a test that you can use to find out. So, hello, my name is Matthew Coast, and welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to be talking about what guys do when they're really attracted to you, almost obsessed with you. What do guys do when they're doing this? How can you find little clues that show you how interested he is in you? All right, so let's start. Number one, the first thing that he's going to do is he's going to put in effort. This is very, very important. Effort is incredibly important. So, what he's going to do is he's going to talk to you. He's going to message you just to message you. Sometimes I get women, they're like, oh, he sent me a message, but it was just like, hey, or like he was showing me a picture of something, or he was talking to me. That's a sign of interest, right? And they're like, why do guys do that? And it's because they want to be connected to you. They want to talk to you, they want to bond with you. And that's why guys do that. He'll also call you, he'll try to get near you. So if this is kind of in like a space where he is, like let's say you work together or something, he'll want to, or if he sees you in a community space or something, he'll want to be around you. He'll subconsciously, a lot of times this stuff doesn't even happen consciously, he'll just move over towards you and he'll stand next to you or near you. It's something we call proximity. And he'll want to be around you. He'll want to set up dates and meet up with you. He'll want to be your friend and hang out with you. He'll want to do lots of different things if he's really attracted to you. And he'll just come up with stuff and then he'll start doing it and try to get around you. It's a very, very important one. He goes out of his way for you. So guys that are really into you, they'll want to just do things for you. They'll want to go out of their way to help you, to get around you, to be near you. If you're going on a date, he'll do things that a lot of guys won't do because he'll want to be near you and around you, and he won't let obstacles get in his way. If there are any obstacles, he won't care. He'll want to hang out and get near you anyway. Say hi in the chat if you're here with us and tell us where you're watching this from. It's cool to see women from all over the world watching these live streams. So if he's not into you, he's going to be doing the opposite stuff, right? He's going to send you short text messages, and they're going to be like always short, right? He's always going to send you short text messages. He's going to avoid talking to you, or he'll feel like it's a chore. He'll feel like he wants to be either distant from you, or he just absolutely doesn't care, right? The worst is if he absolutely doesn't care, because it shows that he has no emotion. Any kind of emotion, even if it's kind of like a negative emotion, can be a good thing, because it means that there's some level of attachment, or kind of feeling like he's really like into you, even if you're not behaving the way that he wants you to or whatever, right? The more emotion that he has about you, the better. You can turn those negative emotions into positive emotions a lot of times, and that's really, really powerful. So number two is body language. So he looks at you longer than normal, right? This is a very, very common one, because he wants to look at you. Actually, if you get close to a guy who's really into you, who really likes you, who's highly attracted to you, his pupils will get bigger, they'll dilate, because it's just like a natural thing that we do as humans when we're around someone that we're really attracted to, is our pupils will dilate and we'll want to get closer, we'll want to look at that person more. And so he might longingly look at you, or look at you longer than normal. And if you're not into him, you'll think it's creepy. If you are into him, you'll think it's awesome. But guys that are really into you, they'll want to look at you. They'll see you across the space and they'll just look at you, and they'll just see you and they'll want to look at you as much as they can. He smiles when you're around him for no reason. Maybe he laughs at things that don't even make sense for him to laugh at, Why? Because he's high on that love drug, right? He's love drunk. And so when he sees you, he's just like, ooh, right? And so he's just laughing about dumb things. And that's normal. That's normal when you're really attracted to someone. Another one is he faces you when he's standing or sitting, right? So his body language, he's it's all facing you. His feet are facing you, his body is moving towards you. If he's not really into you that much, or he's upset with you or something, then his body language will shift and his feet won't point towards you, they'll point away from you, his body will turn away from you, he'll just look at you to the side or something like that. And it shows it's a subconscious thing that we do around people that we like or that we don't like, is we either face you or we don't face you. And that's just a normal thing. Another one is he touches you, right? This may sound, I don't know if this sounds obvious or not, but people that like other people that they're talking to, they'll touch that person. So if he's touching you a lot, if he's trying to get reasons to touch you, if he comes up with excuses to touch you, if he just touches you a bunch, just the more of these things that he does, the more highly attracted to you he is. He laughs at your bad jokes is another one, right? So this goes back to the whole, he's love drunk, right? And you have bad jokes and it's just so funny to him, and it doesn't matter because he likes you, and he wants to make you feel comfortable. Even subconsciously he'll do this, and he wants you to feel good. And so he is just laughing at whatever dumb joke you're telling, even if it's not funny. If you get what I'm talking about right now, say I get it in the chat. If you don't get what I'm talking about, go ahead and ask whatever questions you have. We're going to get to questions here in just a minute. So if he doesn't like you, like I said, he won't do any of these things. He won't, laugh at your jokes. He won't think you're funny. He won't try to get near you. His body language won't face you. He won't look at you very long. Sometimes if a guy really does like you and he's a little bit nervous, he might be like timid to look at you. But most guys, if they're really into you, they're going to want to look at you as much as they can. So number 3 is going to be his language. And this is really powerful. So if he's talking to you, he probably likes you. That's what I would assume if I were you. So if he's talking to you at all, he probably likes you. Also, look at his emotion when he's talking to you. The more strong, like the stronger emotion that he has when he uses his words and talking about you and things that are going on with you and all that kind of stuff, that's a reflection of something that's going on inside of him. And so you just want to listen to those words and what he's saying, right? If he uses strong, positive emotional words like awesome, like, oh my God, that's so awesome, right? It's a reflection of how he feels when he's talking to you. And sometimes he might want you to know that, right? He wants you to know that there's a lot of emotion there. And so he'll use words like love, right? Love, I just love it so much when I'm right? He wants you to feel that. He wants you to know that he really likes you a lot, right? Or he might talk to you about things that you are doing and use some of these highly emotional words or talk about it in a highly emotional way. So he expresses himself and how he feels inside through his language. And the more that he does that, the better. And if he's not, right, if he doesn't, he's not really that into you, he won't do any of those things. He won't talk in highly emotional ways. He won't try to express himself through his language with his emotions. So the most important thing in my personal opinion around this is movement, right? You want him to be moving forward. And if he's not doing that, it doesn't really matter, right? Even if he's really into you and maybe it's kind of like secretly into you, you can do one thing, and it's this test to figure out what's going on there and to kind of get him to open up about it some more and talk about it and maybe start expressing those things in more of a way. Or if you're just like, I'm not sure what's going on here, here's what you want to do. this is a good test to see how much he really likes you and how he's going to respond, and if it even matters whether he really likes you or not. And this is what you want to do. You want to accuse him of really being into you, of really liking you. So if you accuse him of really liking you, what you want to do is just watch how he responds to that. Some guys will admit it, right? They'll be like, "Yeah, you caught me. I'm totally into you, and that's awesome," or whatever, right? Some guys will deny it, right? They'll deny, "Oh, I'm not, right?" But if he's like denying it, but you can see that he's really emotional about denying it, or he's like whatever, he's probably still into you as well. What shows you that he's not into you at all is if he denies it and there's just no emotion there. If it's just like a very matter of fact way of denying it, like, no, I'm really just not into you, or I just don't really like you that much, right? That shows that he's not really into you. But if he shows any emotion or he admits it, a lot of guys will admit it, and a lot of guys won't, right? A lot of guys will deny it because they're embarrassed about it, because they think that you don't like him as much as he likes you, or any of that kind of stuff. Just look at his body language and look at his emotion behind that, and that'll tell you everything that you need to know. All right, so let's talk about the three again. Number one is he puts in effort. Number two is he uses his body language. Number three is he verbally expresses it. He uses his language to tell you. What are some other signs that a guy is really into you? Go ahead and post them in the chat, and let's hear what you have to say. And I am going to go over all the questions. We've got a new member from Mary Jo. Thank you for being a new member, Mary Jo. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Mary Jo. Mary Jo says, "Hello, it's me, Mary Jo. Thanks for joining our community here, Mary Jo. You're awesome. You are awesome." Sodik says, "Hello, friend. Did you also believe that what you also pray in your mind will come true? It's really worked for me. Oh my God, speechless. My ex left me 6 months ago. He called this morning." Okay, cool. That's awesome. I'm glad that that worked for you. I'm glad that worked for you. Amy says, "Happy Sunday. Hello, watching from Texas." I'm actually doing this in Texas. I'm in Texas right now, Austin, Texas, at the moment. So, hello, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. From Ohio. Shannon says, "You never respond to my comments." Well, I'm responding to your comment right now, Shannon. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Renee says, what about if he talks baby talk, right? What do you mean by baby talk? Like, is that what he's doing with you? That's another thing that a lot of people do sometimes. I used to do that as well when I was younger. I used to just start like changing your voice. And when you're talking to that person that you really like, you talk to them in this weird, like, kind of like kind of a talk. Does this make sense? Does that make sense to you? That is something that people do sometimes when they're really into somebody. It's like they change. It's like who they are and the way that they talk to you specifically will completely change, and they'll use kind of this tonality and speech in a weird way that a lot of people don't normally use. And it's kind of like baby talk. I don't know if you'd call that baby talk, or maybe you're saying if he calls you baby. If he calls you baby, it's like, it depends. Does he call everybody baby? Because he might call everybody baby. There's some guys out there that are just like, "Yeah, baby, what's up?" And they talk to every woman that they talk to that way. That could be a thing that he does. I hear that's more of a southern thing. El Musima says, "This reminds me of a song. I see you from across the room." I don't know what song that is. Otherwise, I'd sing it. I'd sing it if I knew that song, but I'm not sure. Julie Tree says, Matt, my daughter's ex-boyfriend is acting just like this with me, calling, texting, buying me food, staring at my face. How do I let him down easy? Well, don't worry about letting him down easy, Julie Tree. Just let him down. That's that's really what you got to do. You don't want to get all caught up in how do I let this person down easy. Just be like, hey, you set up boundaries, say, hey, I think you're a really nice person, and this makes me feel awkward, and I'm not really interested in you doing all these things because it's kind of a little weird. It's a little weird for me, Mr. Daughter's ex-boyfriend. It's just a little weird for me. It's a little weird. Wendy says, I get it, Matt. I'm good at reading body language, and that has saved me a lot. I'm sure it has. Reading body language is very important. Luis says, this all sounds like younger men. What about 55 plus years old, typing while you're talking in point one and two? Yeah, Luis, it's one of those things where a lot of times we think because somebody's at a different age that they're going to act differently. And when people get older, they do act a little bit differently, mostly because they don't have the same kind of energy that they had when they were younger, or because they've gotten burned when they were younger, or any of that kind of stuff. But I promise you, Luis, they still have these things going on inside of them. They still feel these things inside of them. It might just be a little bit different in how they express it, or they might be better at not expressing things. And going back to the thing that we were talking about earlier with the test, that can be a really good way of finding out with them, is just accusing them of it, being like, hey, like, I noticed that you're doing this and that, and you know what? I think you're really attracted to me, and they might deny it or whatever and be like, okay, like, and then you bring it up again later and you're like, like you did something again, right? And accusing them of it. That can be a really powerful way because it can bring that stuff out. And if a guy is just very, very like matter of fact, like, no, that's not what's going on, then you know that it's not any kind of thing. Whereas if he's emotional about it, the more emotion he has about something or around something, like if you accuse a guy of liking you, if you're like, oh, I can tell you're totally, and you keep giving me, that's the best way, in my opinion, to do it, is to accuse him of giving you a look. You keep giving me this look, I can tell you're really into me. If there's no emotion there, it he's not really into you. If there is emotion there, or he feels like really awkward or whatever, there's probably a lot there, right? And the more emotional he is, the more there probably is there. And in my opinion, that's the best way to kind of figure things out there. For a guy who's older, like I said, he might try to hide things more because he's gotten burned and he's been attracted to a lot of women in the past. He's been really attracted to a lot of women. And so he probably has more wisdom around it, and I hope he might be better at controlling himself, and his energy levels are probably less, so that can affect it as well, right? Because if he just doesn't have the energy that he used to have when he was younger, he might not express a lot of these things in the same way. Good question there, Luis. Touchy to me will feel like lust. Well, it's a big part of it, right? Lust is a part of all of this stuff. Lust and love kind of go hand in hand a lot of times. And that's kind of what we're talking about, right? Being attracted to somebody. Being attracted to somebody is a form of lust. Catherine says, I get it. There's no age limit on this either. That's right. Joy says, I get it unless he's a Capricorn. They're a special kind of people. Can't quite figure it out. Yeah. Okay. Las Flores says, obviously watches your stories. Yeah, he's like watching all of your stories on Instagram or Facebook or wherever he's doing all your story watching. That can also be a sign that he's really into you. El Musima says, I'm looking for men in their 40s or late 30s. Okay. Monica says, what if he talks short messages but call only for personal reasons, but chat only when I chat with him? He also don't talk of him, he's personal stuff. He only talks of how much he loved me and beautiful I am. Well, what you want to look at, Monica, is you want to look at effort and energy to meet up with you, right? Like if you're just talking to some person online and they're not trying to meet up with you or hang out with you or any of that kind of stuff, then all the things that he says doesn't matter. You want to look at words and actions, and they need to be in alignment. If his words are out of alignment with his actions, then you want to believe whichever one is the worst of the two. So if his words are worse, then you want to believe his actions. If his actions are worse, which are probably in this case is what we'd be talking about, then you want to believe his actions. They need to be in alignment and they need to happen consistently over time. That's what you're looking for. And my suggestion, I don't know what your situation is here, Monica, but don't talk to a guy online for more than 7 days if he's not trying to meet up with you. Stop talking to any guy that you talk to online if he doesn't try to meet up with you within 7 days. You can tell him that you'd love to meet up, but that you just don't have any time to talk, just to chat online here anymore. And if he wants to meet up, that's great. And if he doesn't, that's fine too. You're just learning more about your relationship to him. Learning more about your relationship. Luis says, second question, how about a man who is really busy running his business, which is highly demanding? Well, you want to look at lifestyle too, right? This is very, very important, right? He might be into you and he's really, really busy. And, what I would imagine you want is a man who makes you some kind of priority in his life. And so if he's not making you some kind of priority in his life, then it doesn't matter whether he likes you or not, because what you're doing here in this entire game of dating and relationships is you're testing, right? You're screening these men to see if they're the right man for you. Are they going to take you to the relationship that you want to have? And so if he's a highly successful businessman, he needs to still come and pursue you and talk to you and take you out and do all these things. And if he's not doing those things, if he's not doing those things consistently, if he's not doing those things in a timeline that makes sense, then he's just weeding himself out. It doesn't matter how good looking he is or how successful he is or how much of a leader he is and all that kind of stuff. Is he taking you to the promised land of the relationship that you ultimately want to have? And if he's not, then he's screening himself out. He's screening himself out. He's screening himself out. Yeah. All right. So what else do we have here? Blaze Buster. Susan says, how would you know if it is long distance and it's over text? Well, it goes to the same thing, right? Long distance, it goes to, is he still talking to you, right? I'm just going to assume, Susan, that this is a guy that you've already met. You've already met with him. If he's not a guy that you've already met, my suggestion is that you let him go. And if he wants to have a relationship with you, if he wants to pursue you, he needs to prove himself that way. And if he's not, then my suggestion is that you definitively date other people and find somebody that's real with you. If you have been dating him, if you have met him before, if all that kind of stuff, what you want to look for is, one, him wanting to talk to you specifically over video chat. Two, him wanting to set up times to meet up with you and hang out with you and talk to you and visit you or visit mutually together somewhere or whatever, right? And three is him spending time. You're looking for investment, right? Investment is the most important thing. Is he investing in you even from a distance? If he's not investing in you, even from a distance, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he likes you or not, right? Again, we're talking about getting to this relationship that you ultimately want to get to. And if he's not moving towards that relationship, if he's not taking you there, if he's not showing you that he's the kind of guy that you want to have in your life, who will take you to the relationship that you want, then it doesn't matter how much he likes you, right? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And yeah, so does that make sense, Susan? Beth says, also, what does it mean if he says I'm incredible, adores me, yet ignores me, but looks at my IG stories? Like, why lure me in, then act like I don't exist? It's like guys don't consider feelings. Yeah, I mean, everybody does this, right? Women do this to guys as well all the time, right? And so it's not like a man woman thing. It's a everybody does this to each other thing. And again, we're going back to, is he putting in effort? Is he putting in energy? Is he investing in you? And if he's not doing those things, Beth, it doesn't matter if he says that you're incredible and he adores you and then he ignores you, right? If he's ignoring you, he's got communication problems. He's probably not the right guy for you, right? You don't want a guy who ignores you. If a guy ignores you, he's screening himself out. He's showing you that he is not fit or capable or in the right place to be the kind of man that you need in your life to have the relationship that you want. You deserve to have a great guy who doesn't ignore you, who wants to talk to you all the time, who wants to meet up with you, who wants to be in conversation with you, who thinks that you're special and amazing and adores you, and actually shows you with his actions that he feels that way about you. Right now, his words and his actions are out of alignment. And so he's not the right guy. Beth, you are an amazing woman and you deserve a great, amazing man who wants to treat you like you're a valuable, special, awesome woman that he wants to have in his life. And if he's not doing that, that's fine. He's weeding himself out. There are plenty of great, amazing men who are willing to do that. What you need to do, Beth, is you need to believe in your own value. You need to believe that you're worthy of having a great, amazing guy who will treat you great. If a guy does these kinds of things where he tells you something really amazing, but then he shows you with his actions that he's ignoring you and that he's taking you for granted and that he's not putting you as a priority or whatever, that sucks, right? It sucks. It's painful. It's painful. I've had lots of women do that to me before, right? And it sucks. And there are a lot of women in our community who have experienced that, and it sucks. And what you need to do is make sure, one, that you're dating multiple men so that you're not putting, see what the abundance dating thing does is it lowers men's value in your eyes. That's really what you're doing, is you're disconnecting from any one man and you're stopping yourself from overvaluing him because you've got a bunch of different options. And if what you do is if you only have one option, you're going to feel like you need to get all of your connection and love and value from that man. But if you're connecting with yourself, if you're connecting with other men, if you're connecting with other people and nature and children and all the different places that you can get connection from, you won't feel so thirsty to get it from this one guy. And that's really the place that you want to be coming from. Does that make sense, Beth? Remember your value, Beth. Remember your value. Grandma Kay says, what if he says he jealous, then he say just playing. Then say he just playing. Well, this is a Grandma Kay. This is one thing of many different things that could be going on here, right? So what are the rest of the things that are going on? If a guy says, hey, I'm jealous, and then he's like, hey, just playing, right? Is he doing other things for you? Is he doing a lot of other stuff for you? I mean, this is a completely unimportant thing right here, right? Maybe he is a little bit jealous. Maybe he's not, and he is just playing. It really doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter, right? Like, what you want is energy and effort and somebody who's investing in you and treating you amazing. And anything else that happens is only mildly important. only, only mildly important. Mary Jo says, good eye contact. That's right. Guys with good eye contact, it's important. Morning and night text. Yep, that's another way you can know that a guy's really into you. Morning and night text. Rini says he got offended when I paid for dinner once. He said to never do that again. Right? Well, it sounds like he really wants to be in the masculine provider role. Sounds like it could be a little bit possessive, a little bit overbearing. So you want to watch that, Rini. You want to watch that, Rini Ray. Watch for other signs of him being overly possessive and overly kind of weird in that way, because what you're seeing is patterns, right? If you see a guy do something one time, it could just be a one-time incident. But if you look at different situations and he's doing this in a whole bunch of different situations, then what you see is a pattern. It becomes a pattern, and that pattern usually dictates most people's lives. And so if he has a pattern that maybe he's been holding back and you end up seeing it, right? It forms a pattern, and it shows you who this person is or how this person behaves in their normal life. And so that's what you want to look for, Rini Ray, is you want to become a pattern detective. You want to see patterns wherever you can see patterns. You'll be like, oh, I saw this pattern, and this shows me this, right? And then you bring them all together, and it builds a puzzle, right? You take these different puzzle pieces and you put them all together, and it builds a puzzle of what's actually going on with this person. Actually going on with this person. Blaze Buster said, did you have a nice Christmas? I had a great Christmas. Thanks, Blaze Buster. Did you have a great Christmas? Tell us in the chat if you had a great Christmas. Did you have a great Christmas? So Shanti says, how do I get him to do the first? Well, Shanti, what you want to do is stop trying to get men to do things, and instead you want them to show you how they're feeling and how they're reacting. So the problem with trying to get him to do something, and I mean, you can do things to encourage him to do that kind of stuff, but if the entire first one, which is literally the most important one, which is effort, he's not doing, if he's not showing any effort at all, right, then he's weeding himself out. And so what you need to do is stop valuing him so much, right? Putting him on a pedestal. That's what you're doing right now. When you have a guy and he's not doing what you want, and you're like, this is the man that I want. How do I, twist him into a pretzel and put a little bow on him and put him up on my mantle and have him do all the things that I want him to do? Have him dancing around like you got these you've got these strings, and you're like stringing them around, and he's like, oh yeah, Shanti, I'm just gonna do whatever you want me to do. You want me to shake your hand? You want me to dance around, right? And if you're forcing him to do those things and then he starts doing those, you're not going to respect him. Let's just get that one out of the way, right? You're not going to be able to respect him as a man. You're not going to be able to trust him as a man, because if you can get him and force him to do all these things, any other woman out there is going to be able to get him and force him to do these things as well. And so you're not going to be able to trust him. And if he's not doing these things, then he's weeding himself out. And so what you need to do, Shanti, is you need to devalue him in your eyes and instead start dating other men. Get into dating abundance. Start believing that you value, or that you deserve to have a guy who's putting in the effort, who's treating you really well, who's making you a priority, who's showing you that he loves you and he cares you and that he wants to treat you right and that he wants to take you to this amazing relationship that you want to have. And if he's not doing those things, then he's weeding himself out. And you need to stop valuing him so much that you're like, I got to get him to do all these things, right? And instead, let men show you who they are naturally and how much they care about you naturally. And be in abundance. That's why abundance dating is so important. If you're in abundance dating, then men are chasing you. They're showing you that they're the right man for you. You're in the frame of, are you going to show me that you're the right man? And if you're not, that's great. I'm going to find a guy who will show me that he's the right man. Does that make sense to you, Shanti? Does that make sense? If this makes sense to you, say, yes, I get it in the chat. Felicia says, you can tell if a man cares about you when he shows his emotion. There's no hiding it. That's right. Christine says, love your advice and personality. Well, thank you, Christine. Thanks for being here. Takes one to know one. Katerina says, hi, Matthew. I'm watching you from Slovakia. Your stories are clever and interesting. Thanks. Thanks. Rasha says, what if he is in a hurry to make it sexual from the second date? Well, all guys need to move it to a romantic situation, Rasha. So your job is to push that back and evaluate how he is and who he is from a partner standpoint. Is he a good partner to be with? And if he's constantly trying to push it towards a physical relationship and you're not ready, you need to set boundaries and let him know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, and set standards and say, hey, this is what I want. I'm not the kind of woman who hooks up with a guy immediately. I want to make sure that I'm getting myself into a long-term good situation if that's something that ends up coming from it. And so, I'm not that kind of girl, and if you want to keep pushing that and pursuing that, that's fine. But we're not going to hang out that much if you if you keep doing it. We're not going to spend time together, and we're not going to end up dating at all if that's the only direction that you want to take it. And you want to see what he does, right? Does he get all crazy and weird? And what you're finding out, what the most important thing that you can find out is, how does he respond when he's not getting what he wants? If he starts acting crazy and weird, then it shows, it reveals his character. And if he doesn't act crazy and weird, then that also reveals his character. And most women, they overvalue personality and they undervalue character, right? Does he make me laugh? Is it special? Is it wonderful? Do I get the butterflies when I see him, right? And those are important things. Don't get me wrong. Those are important things. And at the same time, what's even more important is his character. Is he a good man? How does he respond under stress? How is he going to treat you? How does he treat other people? Right? And that's the mindset you want to be coming from. Is one, you want to have fun and you want to be playful and you want to connect with them. And overarching all of this, you're screening him to see if he's the right kind of guy for you. And if he's doing weird things, then you get to view into his personality and his character. And that's what you're really doing there, Rasha. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. Wendy says, why is it that men always want sex chat? Well, it's because if they don't get into make things kind of more of a sexually framed kind of situation around the dating scenario that you're in, then what's going to happen is that they're going to end up in a friend zone, and they're never going to end up, communicating, getting into any kind of a relationship with you at all, right? That's the scenario that hurts most for men, right? What we found is that for men, if you date for a long time and he's spending all this energy and money and emotion around you, and it never gets to a like romantic relationship, for most men, they look at that and they go, that was my time wasted, right? For most women, they're okay with that, right? They feel good and they got a lot of their emotional needs met. For most guys, it's not that way. For most guys, they feel like they wasted their time if they're looking for something romantic. For most women, if they hook up with a guy and then spend years and it doesn't move towards something more than just a hookup, most women will feel like that was wasted time. For most men, they won't feel like that was wasted time. They'll feel like that was time well spent, right? And so there's a middle ground there, right? There's a middle ground, and that's where you need to come in. That's where you need to meet him, is in the middle ground. And if a guy's always trying to, do sexy chat all the time from the very beginning, you need to question whether this guy is taking you to the relationship that you want to have or not, coming from that screening mindset. And as a guy, it's in his best interest to get to that hookup as quickly as possible, usually, because he has more power there. If he doesn't get to it, and the longer he waits to get to it, the less likely that it'll ever happen, then he has less power there, right? In the beginning stages of dating and relationships, you as a woman always have the most power. You always do. The only time you don't have the most power is if you give your power away. After hooking up with a guy, the guy usually has the most power, because you're in this space of, at what point in time are we going to take it from this to a real relationship? And for most guys, they can do this, the hookup thing, forever. And so what you want to do is marry the two together. And that's why we talk about not getting into situations where there's no verbal agreement that there's some kind of relationship there. Because if you for decades where they've just been in a hookup situation with a guy, right? Where they thought it was going to something more, or they thought they were in something more and it wasn't. So you don't ever want to be in that. You don't ever want to be in that situation. Sandy says, when he listens, not just hears, makes an effort to make you feel comfortable, care about how you feel. Yeah, those are very important things. Hello. Kelly says, what do you do if he says, I don't have those kinds of feelings for you, but his every action says something totally different, and all his friends see how into me he is? Well, he needs to get to a verbal place, right? Like what I was talking about before, words and actions need to be in alignment. And if you do what I talk about here, where I'm talking about like accusing him of it, and you're like, no, I totally get it, right? And he's totally in denial. That's great. He can go and be in denial somewhere else, right? You don't want that in your space. You only want a man in your space whose words and actions are in alignment. That's all that you want. You don't want any other combination where his words and actions are not in alignment, and his words are better and his actions are worse, or his words are worse and his actions are better. You don't want either one of those. You want words and actions in alignment. And if he's not words and actions in alignment, that's fine. He can either come to grips with the fact that he's really attracted to you and figure it out and then come and pursue you, or he can just live in denial and waste somebody else's time, right? That's what he needs to do, is waste somebody else's time. You only want a man who's taking you to the relationship that you want to have, Kelly. Does that make sense, Kelly? Do you get what I'm talking about here, Kelly? Let me know if you get it. Say yes. Say yes in the chat if you get what I'm talking about. Say yes in the chat if they get. Yeah, Catherine says they act the same way at 50 something. It's true. They do. Guys act the exact same way no matter how old they are. I mean, there are certain stages and levels that men go through, and there are certain things that change. His testosterone is going to change. His, how much energy he has is going to change. His emotions are going to change. But it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Just want to be aware. Najet says, "Hi, Matt. The guy I'm going with now is very immature, but obsessed with me. He gives me so much attention that I get anxious. Doesn't seem right to me. Love from the Netherlands." Okay. DM says, "What if he's avoiding eye contact in first date? Is he hiding something or being shy?" Well, it might be that he's being shy, but really what's going on with people that avoid eye contact is their confidence is low at the moment. And the question is this a pattern? Is his confidence always low, or is he just nervous when he's around you because he really likes you or you're really attractive to him, and he's just like, eye contact, no eye contact, right? Obviously it's a very important thing. Like, there's certain things that are very important for men, and one of them is eye contact. This is far less important for women around dating and romantic relationships. But for a man, eye contact is very, very important because it shows you how confident he is in himself and how confident he is around you and how he's going to behave around other people. If he has a pattern, which is what you want to look for, of avoiding eye contact, that's a problem, because it shows that there's something going on inside of him. It's a character thing. There's something going on inside of him that makes him afraid of having eye contact with people. And that means a whole bunch of bad things about him. That means a bunch of bad things about him as a man in terms of his character. I mean, he might still be an okay human being, but you probably don't want to have him as your man in a relationship if he can't make eye contact with people consistently. Does that make sense, DM? Does that make sense? Marissa says, "You're really awesome, Matthew." Well, you're really awesome, Marissa. You are awesome. You're awesome. You're awesome. Alicia says, "Hello from Vegas. God bless. I love when you go live." Well, I love when I go live. I love when I go live. Andrea says, "Any first date pointers? What specific questions to ask for a serious, committed relationship? I have a tendency to attract liars, cheaters, and F-boys." Well, Andrea, here's what you want to do, right? I've talked a lot about this idea of words and actions being in alignment today, which is a very important thing, right? It's very, very important. And there's a third component to this words and actions being in alignment thing, and that's consistency. It's consistency over time. And so first dates, what you want to do on a first date, sure, you can ask, "Hey, what are you looking for?" and all that kind of stuff. And if you're coming from a dating app, you can actually ask that on the app. Say, "Hey, what are you looking for on here?" And that can tell you a lot of information, whether you even want to meet up with this guy or not. Right? Because if he says that we had a woman actually in the community the other day who was talking to this guy on an app, and she asked this question, like I suggested, "What are you looking for on here?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm just," he said that he was looking for something casual. And then she's like still trying to have this conversation with him. And it's like, no, if he says he's looking for something casual, that's when you go, "Oh, okay, well, good luck in your search." And then you block him or unmatch him and move on to other guys who are actually looking for something real, or at the very least not really sure about it, right? Because if he's not really sure, if he's like, "Yeah, I'm just dating around right now and I'm trying to figure out things," you can date him, but you don't want to take him seriously until he knows that he wants something real. Does that make sense? And for the first date, what you want to do is you just want to enjoy yourself. You want to enjoy yourself on the first date. The first date shouldn't be this serious thing where you're asking specific questions about serious committed relationships. That's not when you ask those questions, right? That is not when you ask those questions. You might want to ask a question around that, like I said, on the dating app. However, when you're in person, you want to be fun. You want to be playful. You want to enjoy yourself. You want to build a connection. You want to connect with him. And then you can start talking about those things on other dates. And you don't want to hook up with a guy for the first few dates, at the very least, right? It's a huge common mistake that a lot of women, especially in the West, make a lot of times, because like, are there women who have hooked up with a guy on a first date and they got married? Yes. Are you more likely to get struck by lightning? Probably. And so you don't want to hook up with guys on the first few dates at all. Just wait, right? You want to learn about who this human is. You want to find out who they are. You want to know what their personality and their character's like, so you don't end up getting overly attached to some dude who is got a bunch of crazy things going on. Does that make sense, Andrea? So the first date is not about screening questions. You can ask those questions, but you want the first date really to be about fun and playfulness and connection, and seeing if you guys are really right for each other from that standpoint. And if you're not, then you already know, and you want to look for consistency over time. You want to look for consistency over time. Christine says, very true. Older men, 55 and over, still act almost the same way when they're interested in a relationship with you. They also try to gauge his feelings, your feeling toward them as well. Okay. Thea says, hello from Denmark. What if you know one for 6 months and you feel that the communication was deeper in the beginning, and it is just hook up and just what is going on in our lives, but nothing about us? Well, Thea, here's the thing. They've actually done a lot of research on this, and they found that men unanimously, by the 6 to 8 month mark, know exactly what kind of a relationship ultimately they want to have with you. And so if you're past that mark with him, you need to have these conversations, real conversations. Don't look for clues, right? It's the most common mistake a lot of women make. They're like, "Ooh, I'm looking for these clues," right? Like, does he want something real with me? It's like, you've been together for 6 months. Like, stop looking for clues. You need to have conversations with this man, right? Like, have a real conversation with him. And if his actions are showing you one thing, which is his actions are showing you right now that he's not looking for something real, you want to find out what his words say. And ultimately, you're going to probably find out that he's not really looking for something real with you. And what you need to do is you need to start dating other people. You need to stop overvaluing him. You're already attached, which sucks, which means that you need to break things off with him to a certain extent, and you need to start building yourself back up and start building up your own identity, start reattaching yourself from him to other things, connecting with other men, connecting with animals, nature, people, all that kind of stuff, so that you're not getting all your connection from him. That way you start pulling your energy back. And when you have this conversation with him about what's going on and what he's looking for with you, which at this point is a conversation that you should not tiptoe around. You should have a real conversation with him about it. And if he tells you that he's not looking for anything serious, you can let him go. And if he wants to come back to you, that's fine. But he needs to prove himself, and he needs to prove that he's looking for the kind of relationship that you want to have. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do, Thea. That's what you need to do. You need to make sure that you value yourself, that you remember that you are a divine being who is worthy of having a divine connection with another human being. You need to remember that you are special, that you're valuable, that you deserve to have a great relationship with a great quality man in your life. And that if a man isn't taking you to that relationship, if he's not valuing you, if he's not prioritizing you, if he's not treating you like the amazing, beautiful woman that you are, the high value woman, the queen, the goddess, whatever term, whatever identity that you want to take on for yourself, which I do recommend that you take on one of these identities, even if you feel kind of especially if you feel kind of broken from that identity, like it doesn't really fit you now, take it on for a while. Take on the queen, take on the goddess, take on the high value woman so that you shift the way that you see yourself, so that you start believing that you deserve something more than the crumbs that this man is giving you. Too many women they take a whole bunch of crumbs and they try to turn it into a loaf of bread. And these crumbs that these guys are giving you, it's not enough, right? You need to believe that you deserve a real meal, that you deserve to have a great guy in your life that you're connecting with, that you're building this together, this great connection, this great relationship. If you're doing all the work, if anybody's just doing all the work, they're going to feel taken for granted. The other person isn't going to value them as much. And you want to be valued. You want to be cherished. You want a man who looks at you and sees you as that beautiful, high value woman that he wants in his life, the only woman that he wants in his life. And the only way that you're going to be able to attract that and keep that is if you believe it as well. And so again, closing this, we're going to say the Queen's mantra. So take a deep breath in with me and breathe out. Take another deep breath in and breathe out. And one last deep breath in. And breathe out any stress, any anxiety, any feelings of not being enough. And just let it all go. Just let it all go. And just remember that you're a high value woman, that you're a queen, that you are a goddess, that you deserve to have great things, to have a great man who comes into your life, and that any man who's not willing to step up to the plate is just weeding himself out. Remember that. Remember your value. We're going to say the Queen's mantra. Are you ready? We always say it 3 times. Are you ready? Here we go. I am valuable. I am worthy. I deserve to be cherished. I am valuable. I am worthy. And I deserve to be cherished. I am valuable. I am worthy. I deserve to be cherished. And leaving from this session today, I want you to remember that you are valuable, that you are worthy, that you deserve to have a great, high-quality man treat you like the amazing woman that you are. And that if he's not doing that, you're not trying to force him, you're not trying to poke him, you're not trying to prod him, you're not trying to turn him into a pretzel, put a bow on him, stick him on your mantle, because you don't respect a man. You're not going to respect a man who you force into that situation. You're not accepting crumbs into your life. You're only allowing a man in who's going to treat you the way that you want to be treated and take you to the relationship that you want to ultimately have. And if he's not doing that, then he is not the man for you. He has to prove to you. He has to earn you. He has to show you that he's the right man for you. And he has to do it consistently over time. And if he's not willing to do that, that's fine. It's better. It's better to be single than in a situation where you're trying to force a man to be who he's not and who he doesn't want to be. It's better to be single than trying to prove your value to a man, trying to make a man see how valuable you are. So remember that when you leave here today. So that's it for this video. I'll speak with you again soon. And always remember, you are worth it. Have a great day, great evening, wherever you are in the world, great morning. And let's talk again soon.